That young girl was killed because she was white. It was a hate crime, and she was targeted.
We don't actually know that.
Of course we know that.
No.
I'll show you how we know that.
No.
Piers,
I know what you're going to
everything.
say. You had a severely mentally ill, probably schizophrenic.
I don't give.
I'm about to tell you.
If people are mentally
let's
ill.
deal with some
This
facts.
Is a
then you
cop-out.
can. He is heard on tape saying, "I got the white girl." Okay, that suggests a potential racial motivation.
Potentially.
Yeah.
Hit that like button if you enjoyed that intro. It's Sean Daniel here, and Andrew Tate is about to go nuclear on Piers Morgan and say a lot of things that a lot of us are thinking, but of course, because of the media, we're not allowed to say them. And we're going to start it off with Andrew Tate's take on the Charlie Kirk assassination and the liberal media's possible impact on this assassination happening.
The woke mind virus, as Elon Musk calls it, that ideology is extremely dangerous, because the irony of it is you've got this kid who is, purporting to be anti-fascist, but actually using violence and a gun to silence permanently someone whose views he doesn't agree with. The point being, that is the epitome of fascism.
Well, that's exactly it. So the reason this is so dangerous from the left, and it's not as dangerous from the right, is because the people who are on the right live in a version of objective reality. We live in the real world. These people do not live in the real world. If you're going to believe that a man is a woman, and you're going to believe that we should have no borders for our country and unlimited numbers of people can turn up and just steal from us, if you're going to believe that criminals shouldn't go to jail, you're not a person who's sensible. You now have no parameters from which to operate your logic. So if you're going to live in a complete fantasy land, it becomes a lot easier to justify murdering a political opponent than it does if you operate from a frame of rationality. So for that reason, the left are far more dangerous, because all of their ideas are dangerous, because none of them are true. None of them are real. For the same reason, it's dangerous for me to say to you, gravity isn't real, you can jump off a building. If you start believing in things that are completely falsified, completely fantasy, then murder is the end result of all of it. So the left is a serious problem across the world. It's a serious problem across America, especially. You add in a spiritual sickness where we have nothing unifying us in the West anymore. We don't share respect for a flag. We don't share respect for the country we're in. We don't share language. We don't share religion. We don't even share economic prosperity anymore. There's literally nothing unifying us. And if you're going to remove the capability to debate and discuss ideas, then you're going to have an absolute civil war. And that's what's so sad, that Charlie Kirk literally was the #1 guy trying to speak. He wasn't trying to inflame tensions. He wasn't trying to push violence. He was the guy saying, look, let's talk this through and let me show you why you're wrong. He was the good guy who did the right thing, and he caught a bullet for it. And that is truly devastating.
But when you post civil war, literally one post just said civil war, what do you mean by that?
It's interesting that Piers does not want to acknowledge the radicalism on the left. He has to say the politically correct thing, that there's extremists on both sides, which is absurd, because a lot of these, any of these political attempts that I can think of in the last couple years have only been from the left. Whether they're organized, orchestrated, planned, or it's just some random person, which I do not believe, by the way. It's from the left. It's at the people on the right. Biden was in power. Did we see anybody get targeted on the Democrat side? I don't remember anybody. So it's just really disingenuous, and I'm glad Andrew Tate's pointed it out, to act like, oh, it's this both sides thing. No. It's people on the left who resort to this violent tactics. You see them at protests. They're the ones ripping down signs. The most accepting, the party and people who are the accepting ones are actually the ones that resort to violence. They get mad. They get emotionally charged up way before the conservatives do.
In what way? Do I think black people kill black people?
No. Do you think black people suffer from crime? Do you think they are
everybody
also
suffers from crime? Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I would argue, and perhaps I'm wrong, but that's never happened before, that a black person isn't killed because of the color of their skin. They're going to be killed because there's some other drug dealing debt for them to deal with in inner city Chicago. That young girl was killed because she was white. It was a hate crime, and she was targeted.
We don't actually know that.
Of course we know that.
No.
I'll show you how we know that.
No.
Piers,
I know what you're going to say,
Let me show
because
you
I've
how we
already
know that.
debated it. The reality of the situation, You had a severely mentally ill, probably schizophrenic.
I don't give.
I'm about to tell you.
If people are mentally ill.
Let's deal with some
This is a
facts. Then you
cop-out.
can. Let's deal with some facts. Then you can give me your opinion. That's how this works, right? He is heard on tape saying, "I got the white girl." Okay, that suggests a potential racial motivation.
Potentially.
Yeah, okay, but we don't actually know. And I do think, as I've said publicly, I do think the mainstream media has behaved in a very hypocritical manner. If that had been the other way round and you'd had a white man killing a beautiful young black girl and saying, "I got the black girl," it would have instantly been a huge story covered by mainstream media in a very aggressive manner. The fact that this was ignored for several days was an indication to me that there was a decision taken.
Prejudice.
Yeah, so I think there was a clear bias exposed in the way it was ignored. So I would agree with you about that. But I do think it's important to point out this guy had been in and out of prison 14 times, should never have been let out, but is clearly mentally ill, probably schizophrenic. We don't actually know what motivated him to kill this poor Ukrainian woman.
Do.
And the reason it's important is that once we do establish more information and more facts, we can make a more considered opinion. One of the issues I have with you, Andrew, and a lot of other people, is that there's always a rush to judgment. And the problem with rushes to judgment is later information may contradict what you're feeling in the moment. I remember in the riots that erupted after we had a young black boy killing those poor white girls, right? There was a rush to judgment that he'd come in illegally on a boat on the south coast of the UK. It turned out that wasn't the case. So I believe in waiting for facts and information and then casting a judgment. And I think my criticism of you in these situations is you have immediately decided that was the motivation, therefore it's a racist hate crime, and that's it. And I would argue to you, why don't you give it a bit of time? Why don't you wait for more information and make a more considered opinion?
Okay, first things first, if we're going to talk about waiting for information, you shouldn't have told me that Israel was not committing a genocide on October 8th. You've been proven wrong. That's the first thing. The second thing, he said, "I got that white girl." You're going to pretend that doesn't matter as if it's not proof
I didn't
enough.
say it didn't matter.
Third thing,
I said it
don't
suggests
care
a
if he's
racial
mentally
motivation.
ill. Everybody who stabs somebody is mentally ill. This mentally ill bullshit, I don't know where this has come from, where someone's a criminal, but they're mentally ill. Every single person who commits murder is mentally ill. Every single person who commits necrophilia is mentally ill. Every single person who believes they can get in and out of a bank with money without getting caught has some kind of mental disorder. They're all mentally ill. I don't care about mentally ill. And here's the final nail in the coffin to your asinine argument, sir. Why did he not stab anyone else on the bus? Because he was already on a bus with 4 people and he didn't touch them. If he's so mental, if he can't control his mind, why didn't he stab any of those? Is it because everyone else on the bus was black? The first white person he sees, he kills and says, "I got that white girl." And you don't believe that's enough proof for a court of law to determine that was a racially motivated attack?
It wouldn't be enough proof at the moment for a court of law, no. Absolutely, I believe that. But that's because I've covered many court cases and you haven't. No, as a journalist, I just prefer. I prefer in waiting for more information.
Black people on the bus.
I think
this person, who I will agree was probably deranged, although I give no merit to that, although it does not garner any sympathy from me, he clearly had something wrong with him. This person was radicalized by a leftist media machine, which blames every single thing on white people, which says that white people are the devils, that everything white people have done is wrong, that their entire history is wrong, and that they deserve the bad things that happen to them.
You have no idea. You have no idea that he
demonize an entire race endlessly. We're going to end up having a few idiots who act on that.
But Andrew,
and that's what this man did.
But
because
Andrew,
of the media. The leftist media are complicit in what happened to this poor young girl.
Actually, you have absolutely no idea if anything you've just said is remotely true.
I have absolute certainty that it is a fact.
None of it. It's not a fact. If it was a fact, we'd all be...
It is a fact.
No, it's not a fact yet. That's the point. This is my point. Again,
the
off you go.
Media has done
off you go, making a series of assumptions.
For as long... Okay, all right, if you want to be smart, let me prove you wrong.
I'm not being smart. I'm just saying it's not a fact.
Wrong once again. This is Piers.
Bravo to Andrew Tate saying what needs to be said. First of all, before we get to more of this detailed argument, this is the problem with the liberal media. And this is the problem with a lot of people in general, worldly people that they've gone away from the spiritual principles, the Christian principles that the United States was founded upon. And they want you to not use spiritual perception and awareness. Like, you can perceive and be aware that this guy was evil if he killed and stabbed a random girl on a train. And he was influenced, not just because he was mentally ill. Yeah, we need to stop rationalizing people's ridiculous behaviors because they're mentally ill. Like, that's an excuse to not give them harder punishment, not realize the evilness with which they did. It's like they want you to think if someone's mentally ill, it's just random. It just came from nowhere. It's just some mental condition they have that's not tied to anything, that they allowed themselves to get to a certain point mentally. No, nothing like that. It's just some medical thing. Oh, poor you. And then the media, someone like Piers Morgan, wants you to think you're stupider than you are. When you're smart, you know how to see things, you know how to perceive things, you know how to analyze and judge people. Not always correct all the time. None of us are. But they want you to think you're stupid enough. You're so stupid that you cannot judge if something is racially motivated or someone has bad intentions. They want you to wait until you have a court case complete. All the filings, all the testimonies, all the facts laid out before you can make a judgment in your mind with a big news story like this. And it goes deeper than that. That means that they want you to be afraid to make judgments and analyzations in your day-to-day life to keep you safe, to keep you aware of your surroundings, until you have all the facts, until you know the person's history. You're walking down the street, you see somebody that you think is a little sketchy. They're black maybe they're white, they're dressed a little raggedy, they look pretty cocky and egotistical with an attitude. And instead of you leaning into your judgment and realizing maybe this is a dangerous situation, maybe this guy's going to do something weird, maybe I should go a different way, or maybe I should have my guard up, they want you to not use that obvious perception skills to perceive and analyze spiritually, where's this guy at? Or this person, it could be a woman too. And what might their intentions be? Are they a good or bad person? No, they want you to disregard that in the name of anti-racism, in the name of acceptance of people. And then possibly something bad happens to you. Your guard's down, they attack you, they steal from you, you get put in a bad corner. Who knows? That's the extent of people like Piers Morgan when they're saying, wait for all the facts. Now, sometimes it's true to wait for the facts in a story before we report on it and have this big mouth about everything. Like a lot of the people, by the way, who immediately, as soon as Charlie Kirk got killed, had to jump online and make a video, which was absurd. They should have waited a bit and not be until they're in a more emotionally stable situation, but that's a side point. But it's amazing how Piers Morgan and these people, they want you to not use the obvious judgment and perception ability you have as a human being about the good or evil of somebody, about the racial motivation of somebody in a situation like this with the girl getting stabbed on the train.
Piers, I'm well versed in you by now. This is easy. Let me ask you a question. If there's an Islamic terror attack, like the London bombings, and then Abu Hamza, Mr. Hook, Captain Hook, he ends up going to jail for a very long time. He didn't blow anything up, but no, he was talking about how Islamic terror attacks should happen because he believes that people deserve them because of his personal worldview. He was instigating so that some idiot would listen to him with less brains than him and then go and murder. What is the difference between that and what the leftist mainstream media is doing by constantly demonizing white people constantly and endlessly?
Well,
There's always going to be
no,
some
you're
idiot
raising. Okay.
who's mentally impaired
Allow
on
me to
some
respond.
level who's going to act upon
Allow
it.
me to
So
respond.
we're locking up Islamic extremists
All right.
for discussing violence against
Allow
people
me
who
to
are not
respond.
Muslim. We should also be locking up anybody who's demonizing an entire race,
Yeah.
demonizing all of their history, and demonizing them to the point where they cannot get on a bus. They can't get on public transport without worrying about being murdered. And I have a future on this planet where I'm not here. There's a future on this planet where my white daughters exist and I am gone. And they will be victims and targets unless white people start standing up for themselves, standing up for their beliefs, and standing up for their nations. Because you're the only race which is being erased. You're the only one. Nobody is invading and erasing any other race. Only you white people. And you seem to sit there and wonder, oh, maybe it's not too bad. Maybe it's because of this. Maybe it's because of that. It doesn't matter. The world is tribal. You're not going to exist much longer if you don't stick up for yourselves. And you are clearly targets of an orchestrated campaign. There is a campaign which is designed to demoralize and eradicate you. And there are a few idiots who listen to this campaign and act on it savagely in real time on your public transport systems that you pay for with your taxes.
When you stop shouting.
Let me ask you a question, Piers.
Well, why don't you just stop shouting for a moment and let me respond?
The majority of taxes to import white people who don't work to replace them? No other race on the planet would commit suicide to this level besides the white man.
Yeah.
And I'm here to encourage the white man to stand up for himself.
Well, since you mentioned taxes, you could explain why the police had to seize more than £2 million from you.
Yeah, you see, and Piers won't address any of that, of course. We know this. Don't be surprised. He's going to try to talk about taxes with Andrew Tate, blah, blah, blah. Great point by Andrew. Now, why is he yelling? A lot of you guys might get irritated. Oh, my God, he's too bombastic. He's too loud. He wants attention. Maybe. At times, yes, that's true. But he has a justified irritation because you have people in the media who are in charge with spreading messages and spreading their perceptions and storylines of what's going on to so many of us. So the only way, thank God now, we have different ways we can perceive what's going on through YouTubers and social media people. But for a long time and a big influence, it's done by the media, right? And they downplay all this stuff. And they won't say it because it's not politically correct. And they won't get emotional. They say, stay calm. Say exactly what you can in a clearly lawyer-like manner. Andrew's been hearing this crap for a long, long time. And he sees the darkness that's being allowed by all this mass migration and all this promoting of ridiculous ideas. So his anger's justified. He feels like a lot of us when we get fed this BS by people we go to work with, by signs we see in our city center, when we see LGBTQ flags on churches, when we see migrant offices and programs giving out free benefits to people that just came here. Illegally, by the way. And we see everybody downplaying our frustrations, and we see everybody inflaming every other race's irritations. Black people are mad? Oh, it's justified. You know, Black Lives Matter. If Asian people are mad? Oh, you faced racism for a long time. If Hispanic people are frustrated with something? Oh, you grew up in a bad area in Central America. You deserve everything. Of course, come here, take this money. Take this free rent. Take this free food. But when white people are mad, or, you know, go back even farther. Africans are mad about the slavery thing, which Africans sold Africans into slavery. That's a whole thing. They can be mad. Muslims from the Middle East, they have issues. They feel oppressed. Yeah, come to Europe. Come take over. Get all this free stuff. But white people? No. If you are frustrated that you are being demonized, that you deal with issues, that you feel hesitant to express yourself while every other race can express themselves and get a pat on the back. No. You're not allowed to be irritated because if you are, then you're racist. And that's where Andrew Tate's whole frustration comes from. He sees this pattern going on, so he's standing up for it and he's being loud. I support him being irritated about this. Thank you, Andrew. It's itsSeanDaniel here. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to see another liberal host like Bill Maher get humbled and educated, but this time by Ben Shapiro, check out this video right here. I'll have it on the screen, and I'll see you there.